You're listening to the Josh Parnell Leadership Podcast. We all have leadership within us, and once we understand how to challenge perceived limitations, we're able to influence those we're leading. Josh is a leadership coach, trainer, and speaker. He's also a veteran of the United States Air Force with over 20 years of leadership experience. Are you ready to transform your leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results? Let's get ready for liftoff. It's time to go from great to greater. Here's Josh in today's episode.
Welcome to the Josh Parnell Leadership Podcast. This week, I'm joined by a friend of mine. We have a special guest on this episode today. Our guest is a husband. He's a father of two. He's an author, a speaker, and a man of faith. Our guest today is Ben Hinton. Benjamin, thanks for joining us.
Hey, no, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's going to be good. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, Benjamin, man, if you would take a moment to share with the audience who you are, what you do, give us a bit of your life story, if you will, and share with us all about Mr. Hinton.
Yeah, so my name is Ben, and I'm married, beautiful wife, over 10 years. We have an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old daughter, both of them, and then we have 2 dogs as well. And I reside in Bethel Park, just outside of Pittsburgh. And I say reside because as a man of faith, I've now decided that anytime I'm, speaking about where I live or where I'm from, I'm internal perspective, right? So I reside currently in Pittsburgh, PA, right? But that's not where I'm going. That's not where I live. So yeah, I'm a man of faith. I wrote a book that was published last year by Streamline Books that we're both part of, incredible publishing company and culture. And so published this book that came out last year. It's called Let Faith Grow, Running Through Adversity. And it's, I believe, sharing our faith. Lives will be transformed when we share our faith, not push our faith. So that's kind of the overall scope, the 10,000-foot view of the book. So I was born in Colorado with my mom, single mom. We grew up in Colorado, and I think I was 9 years old. We moved back to Pittsburgh, PA, or that's where we, came. My mom's families grew up back here. We had family, and I just felt at home and always loved this place. So, because we would travel to see family and stuff, and my mom had other brothers and sisters, so the bigger family was here in Pittsburgh. And in Pittsburgh, I resided in Pittsburgh ever since, and went to college. University of Pittsburgh is where I would end up going to college after transferring, and got a history degree, bachelor's in history. But, right, your tombstone, you got the beginning and you got the end, and it's the dash in between, right, that tells you the story of your life. And so that's where I grew up. That's where I went to college. But backtracking, I was born with meningitis encephalitis, and it's a virus that there's no cure for. And thankfully, the survival rates is a lot higher now, and a lot of Americans, people all over, have the gene or have symptoms of it. It's dormant. So I was diagnosed with it when I was 6 weeks old, and relatively speaking, had a fairly normal childhood, if you will. But when I was 11 years old, the virus attacked my retina, and we didn't know that that's what the virus was doing. We thought it was pink eye. I was misdiagnosed, and so I lost vision from a virus that was misdiagnosed, unfortunately, and it took the vision out of my right eye. And so that is when, for me, the medical side of things in my life, and I always knew that I say this loosely, labeled, or I always felt like there was a, chip in my shoulder kind of thing. I was a smaller kid. Mom was single. So I kind of took on the man of the house role and a kind of hero mentality, loved sports, and really that was my identity that I would provide through sports no matter what. So then, but 11 years old, had the eye infection. And the virus has, over the years, I'm now 37 years young, over the years has attacked my nervous system off and on. But again, Let Faith Grow, Running Through Adversity is the name of the book. So it's going through adversity, but it's really just obstacles that are waiting to be opportunities. That's what your adversities are. So it's a little bit of my backstory before major event in my late 20s.
Ben, first, thanks for sharing, man. I want to acknowledge you for sharing that. And you talked about the dash in between. On a tombstone, you got your birth date, you got your death date, and as you mentioned, or as you referenced, the dash. And in the dash, you have experienced some adversity, which you alluded to. What prompted you to write the book and get your message out?
It's a great question. So wanted to write a book, specifically when the worst day of my life became my best day. Again, I had some medical setbacks starting at age 11, really when I was born, right? But they didn't really come through. They really didn't affect me cognitively, different things until I was age 11 and stuff. So then, labels creeped in, and then adversities, all these storylines for me. But in 2013, January 9th of 2013, I fell down a flight of stairs. I was home alone at my now wife. We were engaged at the time. I fell down home alone. I was down there for 4 to 5 hours. And so a couple things. Number one, as time's gone on, right, and that dash is still there, thankfully, but it should have ended that day. So, but that's the story. That's when my worst day became my best day. That's when I realized, and I transitioned into, with my faith, I had it growing up, but now it was tested. Now it was on me. And so over time, the desire to write a book was, I need to help people. I need to impact. And so I wanted to document the journey. And I really wanted to write a book ever since 2013. And I wasn't able to release my story until Streamline Books came out to share my whole story.
Ben, what prompted the realization that day? Because you said that was your worst day of your life, but it turned into the best day of your life. And it sounds like, if I'm understanding you correctly, it began with a mindset shift in yourself. There was a perspective shift. So what prompted that realization that day?
Yeah, so what prompted the realization is, and it's over a period of time, right? If you want to tell God a joke, tell him your plan. That's going to be really funny, right? If you tell him your plan, we try to take God where we want to go when it's really we need to go where he wants us, right? And so I always grew up with faith. I had faith. I was saved when I was younger. Because there's other trials that I've gone through as a child as well, not just neurologically and the nervous system, but my mom, unfortunately, one of the biggest hearts there is, and she used alcoholism and addictions to escape. And so at a young age, I was surrounded by the right people, the right family. I was saved, so I always had faith, right? Especially given to me from my grandfather growing up in the church with him. And that's what saved my life. The reality of it is being down and out for 4 to 5 hours, a flight of stairs, right? And later they would say, man, you survived this because you were in good shape. And no, I survived it because God is with me, right? And so now the transformation became that you have to get your story out. You have to share it. But my virus was always fight or flight. It's the nervous system, right? It's the HSV virus. And I was always able to handle adversity growing up. I actually didn't mind it. It was a chip on my shoulder. It was going to be what I needed to do. But again, I was trying to, with my identities not in alignment, I was always the one that was trying to take God where I wanted to go. And later in life, I would find out my biggest fear is when success comes my way, that I'll take his praise away. So this was the first time in my life with a brain injury that's invisible, right? And this brain injury then made me have to put myself first. And so that means faith, that means fitness, that means mental health, all of it. Because growing up within a single household, being sick off and on, growing up, taking on all those roles, I didn't realize that I was always taking care of someone else. And this forced me to take care of myself. This forced me into isolation. This forced me into my faith. But I emphasize the word forced because it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. The worst day, right? And it's sucked for a long time. But over time, the transformation, right? My perception to his perspective, that's why I wanted to write the book. That was the change. When I realized that he's got to be first, and sharing my faith, right? And they say, if you've heard it before, greatest metaphor, or one of them is the setback is the setup for a comeback.
Love that.
So,
the setback is a setup for a comeback.
Yeah.
Ben, you mentioned earlier about labels, and you talked about your identity. And for a lot of us, as we grow up, labels are put on us. And sometimes we put the labels on ourselves. So if something occurs in our life, we might tell ourselves we are a certain this or that, whatever, right? And And even my own life, the label I was putting on myself at a young age was I wasn't smart. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't intelligent like those around me. That's what I believed. And what happened is those labels that I was giving myself formed limitations for myself. And so for a lot of us, as I mentioned, sometimes the label was given to us by somebody else, unintentionally, inadvertently. But what were we able? I want to share this first. There's a quote that I love from a poet named NQ, and NQ says, "Defining myself is like confining myself, so I undefined myself to find myself." So if I'm going to break down that quote, what he's sharing is defining myself is like confining myself. So putting a label on myself is putting a limitation on myself. So I undefined myself to find myself. How are you able to shed the label that was created for you, Ben, to turn that into a lesson versus a limitation?
So, I really started as the journey went on. So during the journey, and the thing about having a brain injury was, what did it took from me? All the other adversities I ever had, I was able to put my head down and I was able to go back to work. Like, look, so my identity was, my idol was Reggie Miller growing up, not Michael Jordan, but it was Reggie Miller, right? And I was going to be the next Reggie Miller, okay? And I don't know him personally, right? But I loved Reggie Miller. I loved the way he played, right? And so that became my identity. And when it became my identity with setbacks, like when I lost sight in my right eye, external information, okay, was you can't get back to playing now. You have to wear goggles. You have to do this. You have to do that. And I hated it. I was so frustrated with labels. And there's a lot of stuff that would grow over time. And I say the word grow because let faith grow. But with these limitations and these labels, I never paid attention to them, because when you're younger, like, and you're a kid and a baby and you learn how to walk and you know how to do things, you're just going to do it no matter what. Like, your parents are just there to keep you alive, because you're so stubborn, you're going to climb that, the fridge, or you're going to do whatever it is. And because that's a child of God, like that's where you're exploring and learning and finding yourself, right? So limitations are put on us. And so how I got through the labels and how I got through these things was that I was always able to get through what I was going through physically, mentally with the labels. And I had that chip on my shoulder that I will prove you wrong, when really it's about proving him right. And he doesn't need to be proved right, but it's more so about not proving someone wrong, right? But being the light and showing people. So what ended up happening was I had facial paralysis on the left side of my face. My vestibular system was shattered on the left side, which means my balance system was completely shattered. Concussions. I now can't hear out of my left ear, okay, which I can't see in my right eye. And so what ended up happening was I was trying to force my way back into basketball. I was trying to force my way back into my identity. And then the frustration with God comes in, right? You're like, I'm supposed to be in the NBA. I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to do that. Now you're finally taking it away. And so you get to the last straw, because you cannot play the game. You cannot. And I was a coach for a long time, off and on as well, but I had to walk away from that. So the worst day became my best day. The transition is this, in labeling. The transition is this. I always get to where I'm going by walking away from where I've been. So I walked away from the game of basketball. I walked away from coaching. Opened up the doors of running. Mm-hmm. And running replaced, addition by subtraction, running replaced basketball. But what it did was it reminded me of who my identity is. And then there's the transition of running away from something, right? I was running away from a brain injury. I was running away from being injured, broken, all of these things, and I was getting burned out. So then the middle mile, right, or being stuck in the desert of or the middle of a marathon, right? When you're in those middle miles, those middle moments, midlife, right? The defining moment was I'm actually making the decision to run towards Christ. I'm actually making a decision not to run away from my problems, but I'm running towards my future. I'm running towards my destination. So that's where the label was, fixed.
Ben, you're a testament to someone who sees a greater perspective in whenever you're going through something. I mean, for a lot of us, we go through something and we're in it, like we're really in it, and we're it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. We kind of have this feeling of like when it rains, it pours, and we're in it. But the fact that you're talking about how you go through something to subsequently grow through something, because we could also say when it rains, look for rainbows. I hear you regularly talking about looking for rainbows. You're able to find the good in the bad. We know that not every day is going to be a good day, but we can find the good in every day. And you're able to find those rainbows in those tough days. Ben, one of the things that you talk about in your book is how fear advances and faith infiltrates. Can you elaborate on what that means?
Yeah, so I'll give you two quick examples. Hopefully they're quick. So the first one's a personal example. Look, fear in itself, like the thought of fear is not bad, right? Because we're going to have many thoughts throughout the day, right? Some we realize sometimes, some we don't, right? So from a Christian perspective, from a faith perspective, share this. We're supposed to put our fear in God, which means he knows we're going to have thoughts with fear. So let's make a decision, okay? Attack, right? How do you attack faith? I'm sorry, how do you attack fear? You attack it through faith. You attack it through action. So when it comes to fear and faith, I was reading last year the Bible in the YouVersion Bible app, and you're reading through the whole year, right? And each year, I've tried to read the Bible through the whole year. I made more progress where I highlighted something from the year before, and now something jumps out to me the following year. And so we all love the story of David and Goliath, but do we all understand and we all really go in depth with our reading and understanding in our conversations with the Word and with God? Because I realized last year, I was reading through the story of David and Goliath. Goliath tormented them for 40 days. Okay, and how did he torment them? By his size, by his voice, right? His threats. Then there's the valley, then there's the other side. Nobody moved for 40 days. Why didn't Goliath, he's the Goliath, why didn't you just take a step? And it's like you stepping on Legos, right? You would crush them, but he doesn't. All he does is stand there, right? David comes along. David, okay, has the armor of God. He's actually given, right, armor, and it's too heavy for him physically. He's like, no, I'm not used to this. I don't like it. Takes off. Faith advances. For 40 days, fear, it infiltrated. If you scare somebody one time, right, if you have a traumatic experience one time, fear is going to infiltrate. So biblically, that's kind of where it came from me, this idea and this reminder that, look, fear does not advance. Faith does. So the other aspect of it is, growing up when I had lost sight in my right eye, okay, and I could not see, well, when the virus attacked my left eye, I was blind. I was completely blind, and I would have to take these injections, these shots that would be injections into my eye. And the needles are really big, right? And how many of us have a fear of needles? How many of us are looking at the shots when they go in just from getting blood work, right? And we are scared before the needle gets there, right? Anxiety, all of these things. We want to run away. We want to hide. We want to reschedule it. We have these excuses. So I'm getting these eye injections, and guess what? I never had any fear of them, ever. And the reason being, I never saw it. So I never saw it. Fear never infiltrated. And so because of that, right, that faith, that growth, I don't love, but give me a shot, give me an IV, give me blood work, whatever you do. I look at the needle. I won't look at the needle, but fear has not infiltrated me because I didn't see it, right? And so that's kind of a personal example that I try to use, right? Is a vision, right? That's like a vision. I couldn't see anything, get a needle in my eye, I can't see it. The vision, right? I'm saved in terms of the vision because fear hasn't infiltrated. So hopefully that kind of helps sum it up a little bit. Because faith advances. You take action. That's why it says, how do you kill fear? Take action. So faith advances and fear infiltrates. That's why you let faith grow and let fear go.
And Ben, I appreciate you sharing that. I think I misquoted it earlier. So I think I said fear advances, but of course faith advances. So faith advances, fear infiltrates, but faith is always going to trump fear. If we know how to attack this, faith is going to trump fear. And the similarity between faith and fear is that they both believe in a future that hasn't happened yet. So why wouldn't we choose faith?
Right.
So Ben,
and build hope.
Say it again. And build hope.
Yeah, if you can build hope, right? Building hope, right, is the assurance or the investment, right? It's going to appreciate. Where if you live in it, fear is infiltrated, and you are living with fear, right? then your future is depreciating, right? You're making investments that are just not going to have any return on investment. So faith advances. Faith builds hope, right? Through action and experiences. It's not wins and losses, it's wins and learning. Take the winning, take the learning, build the hope, and have a future of hope, not a future of doubt. So, yeah.
The book is called Let Faith Grow by Ben Hinton. Ben, what are some other takeaways that a reader can expect from your book?
So when we talked about this a little before the podcast, I love piggybacking off of mentors. I love the idea of, I love mentors who have said, I'm just standing on the shoulder of giants. And from a faith perspective, I'm sharing this faith perspective. I love that because we have giants, not like Goliath, but we have, right, as humans, as children of God, as an eternal hope, right, not a future of fear, we can stand on the shoulder of giants, biblical giants. They were not perfect, but they give us a better view, right? And that view a lot of times is like us looking in the mirror. And so what I would share with readers is that when it comes to having that perspective, I love in my book, it's not a how-to book, right? What it is I have my own philosophies, but I've built my philosophies on my experiences and the mentorship of others, or standing on the shoulder of giants. So what readers can expect in this book is, I want them to be understanding that excitement can be caught, not taught, right? Mm-hmm. I'm just sharing me, I'm just sharing who I am, I'm sharing faith so that you have takeaways. And it's something borrowed, something you. We talked about this. I loved doing it with you. Your podcast is amazing. The quotes you say, right? That's what the greatest leaders do, is they look at something, right? They have mentors from the past, in books, right? In talks, in mentors, and they don't recreate it, right? But it just gets repurposed for the new generation. So it's something borrowed, something you, and it's working together. And so readers should expect out of this book to just be encouraged. And if anything, remember, excitement can be caught, not taught. And I want you to be excited no matter what you've been through, what adversities you have, that they're just opportunities in waiting. And really, the takeaway or moral of it is that adversities are really our strengths in disguise. Because I love going through things and putting the positive spin or flipping the script on adversities.
I can tell you the book is certainly an encouragement, and I think every reader can be and feel encouraged from your book. I love that you shared how excitement is caught, not taught. You're reminding the listeners how we are truly contagious, and we have the ability to infect or affect. And it's been shared that humans will likely be able to influence up to 80,000 people in their lifetime, which is crazy to think about. But I mean, a lot of these folks we're not even going to directly meet, but we have the ability to affect up to 80,000 people in our lifetime. And we can do that by the way that we're leading each and every day. The legacy that we're leading determines the legacy that we're leaving. Ben, if I was going to shift gears a bit and talk about leadership, this of course is a leadership podcast. What does leadership mean to you?
Yeah, so leadership, what it means to me is this. Leadership is empathy, right? Not sympathy. Leadership is being kind, not nice. Leadership is leader of one, leader of many. If I can't lead one, I can't lead any. And what I love about you and I love about the podcast is the reminder, right, that leadership is influence. And we all have had influence on us, but we all have influence, right? So it's unlocking the potential and understanding that at the very least, you're a leader of one. And that's not even the very least. But being a leader of one, you can be a leader of many. So that's the takeaway. And leaders, the greatest leaders, right, have been in the deepest trenches, right? And they've built from the trenches. They're built from the trenches up, right? They're not different. And leaders, right, lead others. And like you said about legacy, I love what you stand for with legacy, because the goal is not to live forever. The goal is to create something that will. And that's part of leadership as well, because you have something to live forever, to way beyond your years, no matter who it is.
That's so good, man. And we're doing it today. We're doing it today to make an impact for tomorrow. I want to go back to something you shared just now. You mentioned that leadership is being kind, not nice. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so leadership, and again, leadership is just influence, and I really want to emphasize that, because influence at home, in my opinion, it starts with it's chapters Galatians chapter 5, right? The spirit, the fruit of the spirit, right? Because we are given spiritual gifts, but at home it starts with the fruit of the spirit. They don't need our gifts at home; they need our love at home. They need our fruit of the spirits. So that being said, being kind versus being nice, right? I grew up. And I would end up getting burned out by this when I was growing up. And even as an adult, we often, toe the line of a lot of things. And one of the things we toe the line of is that we care too much about other people. We care too much about their opinions when we should love them more than we care about their opinions for us. Mm-hmm. So, and it's also, and this leads to anxiety and mental health and a lot of different things and issues, right? When it comes to relationships. I've been there, right? And I'm still there. I'm still having now to go through boundaries. But it's the idea that pleasing people, right? Pleasing people and serving people are two different things. Pleasing people is being nice. Serving people is being kind. And being kind is doing it in the loving way, right? In the way that is for themselves now and for their future.
And sometimes whenever we're kind with someone and we're loving them in a particular way, it means that we're sharing some things that may be hard for them to hear, and vice versa. I mean, if we're coaching somebody, we can receive it as feedback, or we can receive it as criticism, condemnation, and judgment. And it's better, of course, if we're able to receive it as the former, receive it as feedback, rather than criticism, condemnation, and judgment. But we're truly doing people a disservice if we don't share the tough things with them. Sometimes it's a tough pill to swallow. It's a tough pill to deliver as well. But that's part of loving someone professionally, loving someone with kindness.
Yep. And not only that, it's kind of like I've been really in a season of people talking about secrets and blind spots. Well, if you are just nice to somebody, what you're going to do is you're going to make them think that everything's good. You're going to make them think they're great. They're going to get on the freeway in life, and they're going to still have blind spots, and that's going to be a head-on collision, or that's going to cause something because you did not, right, before they left the driveway or before they left for the next trip, before they got sent somewhere, right, you're sending them somewhere with blind spots because you chose to be nice, right? So you need to help them with their blind spots. You need to show them a different lens, right? Because at the end of the day, people actually want to be and have constructive criticism.
Yes.
And I know you love and talk a lot about emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. That's the difference between being kind and being nice for yourself and for the other party.
And what I'm hearing you say, Ben, and by the way, constructive is the key word. I'm glad that you brought that up. And what I'm hearing you say is being kind to someone is also just speaking truth to someone. And sometimes the truth is not always going to be what we want to hear, but we always need to hear that.
Yep. And there's also growth there.
There's also growth there because once again, you're showing we're going to go through something and grow through something. Ben, one of the questions I want to ask for you. So on the cover of your book, it says in big bold letters LFG, and so the name LFG certainly raises some eyebrows until we realize what your acronym for it means. We know that LFG now stands for Let Faith Grow. I've got to ask, what kind of questions have you gotten, or what kind of responses have you gotten from the LFG title?
Man, when I love acronyms, and so LFG, if you guys know, the pop culture version of LFG is let's effing go, right? First off, no, let's grow, first off, right? Secondly, and you've seen some of the biggest athletes, entertainers, they say LFG, and you know exactly what they're saying, and it's not, right? You can't hear them, but you know exactly what they're saying. And you've probably been there. You've probably tried to replicate that, right? At the gym or where at. You get pumped up, you get excited. Well, I want to pump the brakes there and just let you know that saying that is, to me, egotistical, right? And to me, true strength is being vulnerable. True strength is letting go of ego, right? That's why I love the acronym and I love flipping the script. I'm going to take LFG, the pop culture version of it, right? The version that's really not aligned and really is destructive and self-centered and egotistical. And I'm saying, no, LFG, let faith grow. And that can pump you up just as much as the other version, right? Because this acronym is, right, letting fear go. LFG, let faith grow, let fear go. And it's bigger than yourself. So I want it to catch on. I want it to be a hashtag. And when I first started sharing that with our buddies at Streamline, Alex and Will, and every time we would see the LFG acronym, like, we get fired up. And it's also great because it's funny because if you know that it's, so I love it.
If you know, let faith grow, let fear go. Ben, man, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to ask, how can our audience get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm in a season right now of growth, and that's why the book's called Let Faith Grow, and it keeps me accountable. So I have other books in mind. I have things I want to do with devotionals, and but speaking, I want to speak to athletes. I want to help people to not have the pressure to perform. So I'm on social media mainly. I do a lot of content right now on TikTok, and then my main handles from social media are Let Faith Grow, and it's let_faith_grow. And on TikTok, it's actually one word. It's be encouraged every. So just connect with me, reach out to me, and hey, a stranger is just a friend you haven't met yet. So even if we just become friends, but if you need a speaker, want to set something up to just encourage other people, share that excitement, reach out to me on those social media, or even just reach out to me as well on my personal account is beencouragedeveryday@gmail.com. And I would love to connect.
Such a fit.
And also the book's available on Amazon as well.
Yeah, book is on Amazon. So Let Faith Grow is on Amazon. Go grab your copy today. And man, I got to tell you, it's such an encouraging, it's such a fitting word. Be encouraged every day. When I think about encouragement, I think about people like yourself, Ben. You are such an encouragement to me. I know you're going to be an encouragement to this audience. But be encouraged every day is your TikTok handle, and then let_faith_grow on Instagram. Ben Hinton, everyone, thank you so much for joining us, Ben. Man, it's been a pleasure to have you on.
No, thank you, man. This is awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait to continue to grow together.
Yes, sir. Let faith grow, let fear go. Thank you for tuning into the Josh Parnell Leadership Podcast. Have a great day, everyone. Don't forget to smile today. Tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. I'm Josh Parnell, reminding you to keep leading well.